Okay. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to this consultancy talk hosted by BITS Goa Women in Tech. We are a community of BITS Goa Women in Technology where we collaborate, discuss ideas, and share opportunities. We comprise essentially of all women that are a part of our college, be it juniors, seniors, or even alumni. We aim to provide guidance for networking, discovering the right opportunities, and finding a safe space for conversation and mentorship. Our mission is to nurture a platform where all women can encourage and learn from each other. We are excited to present today's session on pursuing consultancy. Whether you're seriously considering this career path or you've already started building your resume and are doing consulting projects and taking part in case competitions, or are just curious as to what consulting is, this talk will provide you clarity regarding the same and also how you can go about it in college. So we have two speakers with us here today. I'm sure their stories will inspire you. And um, yeah, so we have Smriti Prakash, who is an associate at BCG, an alumni of BITS Pilani, who did her BE in mechanical engineering. Previously, she's interned at Adobe and JPMorgan. Thank you so much for being with us here today. We're really excited to know how you got into consulting. The next speaker that we have with us is Soumya Thomas, who is an incoming associate at BCG. During her time at BITS, she pursued a dual degree in MSc Maths and BE Electronics and Communication. She has also previously interned at Adobe and MPL. We're really glad to have you here with us, Soumya. Okay, so to provide you guys with some context regarding what BCG is, it is one of the top three consulting firms across the world. So it's a huge deal to be in BCG, and we have two speakers with us here today who work at a BCG. So Smriti, you can get started.
Hi. Thank you so much. I'm really sorry for being a little late. I'm I'm stuck in I don't know a gazillion things. It's a very small group, so like please feel free to butt in. There's no need for it to be an extremely organized session where we're having Q&A at the end. Please feel free to stop me at any point in time where you feel any difficulty in understanding absolutely anything. And this is one thing I've learned at the job, which is if you don't understand something, please just go ahead, walk up to that person, however senior that person may be, just walk up to them and be like, I did not understand a word of what you said. Can you please repeat all of it again? And that's absolutely fine. Trust me, it's absolutely fine to know right in the beginning what you have no idea about. Thank you so much for the introduction. Just a little bit about myself. Um, I started out as a fairly clueless engineer at BITS Pilani campus, not knowing what I really wanted to do, but I wanted to give mechanical my best shot. So my PS1 was where I really knew for a fact that I wanted to spend a lot of time trying to understand whether or not I was a good fit for mechanical as well as whether I liked it. It's a two-way fit. It's not just me liking the field, but also whether or not I was able to do justice to my expectations of what I wanted from my professional life. So that didn't work out very well. Research was clearly not something I was cut out for. My next summer, I worked at Adobe, my third year summer. That was my summer internship. And I think that changed a lot of things for me. Even though it was a fairly software development oriented role, I made sure I stepped up and made sure that I was also learning more about the product that was going on and as to why they were creating the software they were, wanted to go levels deeper, try to understand. Great place, learned a lot of things, but felt that certain things were limited. Even though I was solving problems, I think the scale at which I was solving problems was still limited, which is why then I got placed at BCG roughly around the time this ended. And to be very, very honest with you people, I did not have a very clear understanding of what BCG does or what management consulting is even after getting into the firm. Very honestly, most of the times that I did end up walking up to my seniors in consulting and asking them what they really do, the answer always started and ended with "it depends." And very honestly, that's a very true consultant response. They're just going to be like, okay, everything depends. That's because the job itself, it entails almost everything, which we will definitely get into. Do we want to start with the slides, or how do we want to make this work? Please go ahead, please talk to me.
You will start with the slides. Niharika, could you present? One second. I think there's an issue. Smriti, could you start presenting? There's okay, cool. No worries.
I mean, it's absolutely fine if some of you want to even turn your cameras on. It's absolutely fine. I mean, the more the better. Cool. Can you move to the content slides, please? Right. So, like I said, very confused. Asked a lot of people what it really is. What do people really do at the job? What is management consulting? And I always got responses for what it's. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Right. So, what exactly is management consulting? From the looks of it, it's at least where I was like, I think my prior, like primary exposure to it was when in my first year, I knew a lot of people who were like, okay, Smriti, you have decent communication skills. It seems like you can solve problems well. Seems like you'd be a good fit for management consulting. But what does the job really entail? One, and something we all should be extremely clear about, is that it's a generalist role. So when we call it a generalist role, there is no specialization that you align it to. Let's just say we deal regular management consultants, be it McKinsey, Bain, or BCG. They deal across industries, be it industrial goods, be it FMCG, be it absolutely anything from healthcare, pharma, all these industries, even social impact. All of these industries, they bucket them into industries. Within all these industries, management consultants are hired for their expertise across practice areas. Now, what do I mean by practice areas? It can mean anything, right? From cost optimization. It can mean it can mean a lot of different things, which is something I'll come to later. So essentially the idea is one, we deal across industries. What exactly are management consultants not is something I made sure we added. We're not specialist consultants, we're not IT consultants who will specifically tell you how to do this. We're not extremely implementation focused, even though nowadays consultants have started taking the lens that we'll not just come and tell you what's wrong. We will sit with you, we will stay with you for those extra couple of months, and we will solve the problem with you. Nowadays, consulting firms take that angle. They want to sit together with you and make sure you're seeing through and helping the company actually achieve the targets that you set as a vision right in the beginning when you found the problem. Now, we call ourselves majorly problem solvers. Problems can have multiple magnitudes. Sometimes we are hired when there's no problem at all as well. There are two aspects to it. One, when something's wrong, you see something's going off, which is most of your case prep. It's essentially something like, okay, profits are going up. Okay, growth is not as great as probably your competitors. We're losing market share. Or all of these, like a variety of problems. Or we want to but then you can very well be hired even when there's absolutely nothing wrong. You can be hired for a due diligence. Say, for instance, you're doing a merger and acquisition, you want to enter a new domain. You want to get some guidance from people who have helped other people do the same as well. Management consultants come with a certain set of expertise in terms of stakeholder management. They come in with a lot of resources internally in terms of data, in terms of because of the sheer data that we process. We do come in with a certain set of technical expertise as well. Having said that, it's no particular one field that people absolutely nail over here. So if you are someone who believes you want to do a lot more depth, then I would suggest something like specialist consulting or a particular industry to be for you, and not really management consulting. Management consulting is you doing a lot of things, at least when you're fresh out of undergrad. At the same time, if, say, for instance, you've ended up working at EY or something for 7 or 8 years, and in one particular role, say telecom, you worked at Airtel, you worked at Geo for 6 or 7 years, BCG hires you as a lateral hire. They hire you as a consultant only, but they make sure they use your specialty, like your expertise in telecom. And you very rarely see the light on the other side. You'll very rarely be on an energy case or an industrial goods case. So that's a rough idea of what management consulting is. It's a huge set of services that these companies provide, and they make sure it's not very limited. If we can move to the next slide, and please feel free to butt in. I'm pretty sure this group can. Please trust me when I say this. I'm really okay with random people coming and telling Smriti you're speaking absolute bullshit. It makes no sense. Please go ahead, stop me whenever you want. The previous slide. Right. Okay. Who are your clients? Interesting. So if you can map to whatever I said for the previous slide, which is that you can work across industries. Now, across industries, your clients will also vary. Say, for instance, and my first case was a government case. So, my stakeholders, my clients, were members of the government. Who they were, I'm not really supposed to reveal, but they were members higher up in the government. Say, for instance, I am part of a cement case. You will essentially be going to the field and essentially be talking to senior managers. Normally, because consultants are slightly expensive, your stakeholders are also senior management at the firm, at least for Indian cases. They're normally senior management, which is why you would often notice yourself being at tables where there are extremely high net worth individuals. Now, what does that mean? That brings a lot of, which is the reason why when you're hired into the firm, the minute your recruitment takes place, they want to make sure that they're taking in someone they're confident to put at that table, put at a high stakes table, and not let it reflect poorly on BCG or any of our blue or red friends as well. The entire idea being that you're a confident individual who can make sure a certain presence is felt and comes in with a certain sense of knowledge. Even if not knowledge, comes in with a certain sense of ability that you're adding value to a table. So your clients can be anything. They can be from bankers, they can be you also get hired by private individuals as well, but extremely high net worth individuals, because it's not um, let's just say it's an expensive affair to hire a consultant, which is why earlier your clients were majorly, say, the Fortune 500 or companies of really huge magnitude. Nowadays, consulting has actually progressed a lot. They end up consulting a lot of startups. Startups are your clients. You have a lot of, you're just helping startups grow. I never thought I'd see this happening, but it does apparently. There is an entire wing at BCG which specifically focuses on VC. Like they have an internal VC where they actually help. They have an incubator and they help startups grow. So frankly, your clients are not limited to just Indian players either. You can have clients all over the world. And to be very frank, on my first case, I was told that okay, fine, you'll be flying to Houston 2 weeks later. So frankly, there is no limit on who your clients will be, what their nationality is, what their background is. You can sometimes be sitting with stalwarts in, say, the exploration and production sector who have been there for 28 or 29 years. And when you're sitting at the table, all you need to make sure is you're a confident individual who adds value. These are the two things that a consultant is really coming with, and you need to make sure you bring to the table. What services do management consulting entail? Interesting. Like I said, there's a boutique. Um, there is one particular slide actually. If you can scroll down to, and I'm really sorry, I'm trying to shift orders here. If you can, no, the one with the other consulting firms. Right. The other consulting firms. I don't know if there's a lag at my end. Consulting firms, all of them, McKinsey, BCG, Bain.
The one before this ad. Yeah.
Right. Right. Really sorry, Soumya. Please feel
No
free to add
worries.
whatever you want. The entire idea for this is that every certain company global boutique firms, tier 1 MBB. Tier 1 MBB is supposed to be extremely prestigious in terms of opportunities, in terms of mobility, um, in terms of prestige, in terms of how you value a certain person and where the kind of exits they will basically get. Now, certain firms have certain specialities. AT Kearney is known for their mechanical automobile wing. At the same time, something like a Wood McKinsey is Woodmac is known specifically for energy consulting. You could say Dalberg is known specifically for social impact consulting. So, frankly, the idea of this slide is that, but like when you talk about tier one tries to do it all. So, when we talk about what services you provide, you're not limited by one industry at tier one, you're not limited by practice area. Say, for instance, you have to revamp their entire structure, their entire organizational structure. You could be hired. That's something like that's something more of a people function. At the same time, you could be hired to reduce their carbon footprint. That is from an ESG perspective. So, frankly, you there is no limit to what your services can be when you're part of a tier one firm. At the same time, if you are someone who feels can add value at a particular firm, like say an AT Kearney also does a lot of, they provide a lot of services, but their specialty or what they're specifically known for. Even when they say like even McKinsey, BCG, and Bain, like Bain is specifically known for having extremely good a finance wing. They specialize in DDs. They're known for their DDs. BCG is known for a lot. At least the India office is known a lot for their social impact work. So, frankly, you can pick your battles on the basis of who does what better, but every single firm comes with their own culture as well. And that is something I think you would want to focus a lot more. I know it doesn't matter a lot as an undergraduate to think about the culture of the company that you're about to, but I think it matters a lot more once you're in the firm and you're dealing with it every single day. If you can move back up. Okay, so a week in the life of a consultant. Um, they don't lie, it's very hectic. It's genuinely very hectic, but hectic with reason. Hectic with reason in the sense, if you see, this happened with me a lot, you see a lot of people in IT chilling, and you thought that could have been your life, but you aren't chilling all that much. There's a specific reason to it. They're part of product based companies, they set their deadlines. Right here, you are part of a service based company. You have a certain client to get back to. So essentially, you're always running against the clock. You have very tight schedules, you have very tight deadlines, and you're almost always chasing time. 24 hours are not enough. And frankly, a lot of your experience depends on the kind of case you're in. Some people say public sector cases are a lot more lax. You get a lot more time to chill, focus on yourself. So, one thing that I do know for a fact is this job is extremely fast paced. If you think you are an individual who can thrive in such an atmosphere, and there's nothing good or bad with it, it's about whether or not you see that as a fit for yourself, then consulting is definitely for you. If you think a dynamic atmosphere or workplace is going to work in your favor, go for it. There is nothing more challenging and at the same time rewarding as a job life in consulting if you really want dynamic workspaces. And at the same time, if you feel you're the certain kind of person who can spend years researching and genuinely getting to the depth of something and truly making an impact in one particular domain that you're very sure of, please go ahead, pick that field. I know there's a lot of on campus buzz about consulting for good reason. For good reason. It's an amazing place to be if you really want to be constantly challenged. But then again, I think it's more about introspecting and knowing yourself better before you make that choice. As far as how the week looks, it depends on whether you're on a local case or a travel case. A local case is a case in which your client is in the same city as the one you are based out of. My current home office is Bangalore, and my current client location is in Delhi. I'm currently in Delhi. So, how it really works is during a travel case, and it depends, like the percentage of travel cases you get at different firms vary, in different home offices vary, and there's a whole plethora of things that happen when you're staffed on a case. How does your week look? You start on a Monday morning. I don't get to sleep on Mondays at all. So Monday I leave Bangalore at around 4 a.m. ish to get to the airport, have a 7 a.m. flight, and I'm in Delhi early morning because there's always a client meeting on Monday. On Monday, you meet with the client, you set expectations of whatever has happened in the previous week and what is your process for the coming week. And we have client weekly meetings so that we set targets for ourselves as well. We want to make sure we at any point are not falling back. So you set a weekly target. On Tuesday, you have a case team meeting to completely evaluate the asks of a client, to completely understand if you know what the problem is correctly, and to work on that. On Wednesdays, it's majorly hypothesis building, at least for us. And that's how, and every case team functions very differently. If case teams function differently, imagine how differently companies would function. So Wednesdays are mostly about hypothesizing. You get a certain hypothesis and you think about, okay, and it has very heavy, severe problem solving on Wednesdays. Thursdays is more for implementation. Thursdays is when you know for a fact that you have to get something on paper. You have to do an analysis because Monday is when you need to go back. And Fridays is normally you go back to your home office, you get to meet with your friends, you're flying back home. It's an extremely, I really can't wait for tomorrow, frankly. The for like events Friday, you know for a fact you're just going to get on a plane and go back home. So this is essentially what the week looks in the life of a consultant. And normally during the week, you have like a one or two case team dinners as well. If your partner is in town, you end up going to extremely nice places. Things are great that way. A little about the perks and very real perks. You won't stay in anything less than a 5 or a 7 star hotel. You'll have crazy air miles and a lot of hotel and Marriott Bonvoy points. If that doesn't sound like that was a perfect sell for me. I was like, okay, fine, this sounds like a good life. But trust me, if you think you're going to come to a hotel room and chill, that's not how it works. It's going to be extremely stressful. But yes, you do get those points. So, frankly, that's what a week looks like in my life. If you have any questions regarding any of what I just mentioned, would be beyond happy to answer like before Soumya starts, or if you think we should address that in the end, that's absolutely fine as well. Anything works for us. Soumya, do you want to go ahead? Because I don't think people have questions.
Okay, we can take the questions at the end.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool. Am I audible?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. So thank you, Smriti, for enlightening us how life in consulting is. So I don't think I need to introduce myself again. My profile is very, very similar to Smriti's. I don't know how that happened, but it's very, very similar. Even our PORs, our internships are very similar. So I'll move on to what opportunities undergraduate students have in management consulting. So can we go to the slide? Yeah, that slide, the previous slide, where all the firms are listed. Yeah, thank you. So you can see right at the top, the most prestigious consulting firms, they are called the Big Three, the MBB. They are the McKinsey, BCG, and Bain. So it's very difficult to get into these firms, and they are very selective also. So they go for hiring only in the top IITs in BITS. And fortunately, very fortunately for us, all these three consulting firms did visit BITS this time. So it hasn't been like this before. I think in 2018 only McKinsey had come for hiring. Then for some years only BCG was coming, and this year all these three firms had come to hire from BITS. So you guys have a very uh, in your future it's possible all these three firms will come again. So it's great that even if you don't make it to one of these firms, you have more opportunities ahead. And the other global firms are also listed here. So we have listed all these firms here because the selection process for uh, most of these firms are more or less similar. How in the sense how you have to prepare for cracking into management consulting. Yeah, let's go to the next slide. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, thank you. So why consulting? Why is consulting considered as such a lucrative career option? That's what we are going to discuss next. So as Smriti talked about, you get a lot of cross industry exposure in consulting. So I've heard the kind of cases that you are working in, right? At one point of time, you might be working in something related to FMCG. Next case will be related to banking. It's very unpredictable. It's very versatile. So it's kind of it's very exciting in that sense. That in I don't think there is any career option where you get to learn so much. As in your second case will be so different to your first case, and the third case will be something completely different. So the learning curve that you get from consulting is very different than any other career option. And the next thing is the kind of exposure that you're getting. So just the other day I was talking to Smriti, and I got to know the kind of people that she was interacting with on a daily basis. It's simply wow, the kind of people that you're dealing with, talking with, people in power, people in the top management in the top companies. So I don't think in any other career you'll get such a sort of exposure at such a young age, right? And the next thing, the exit options. So even in the McKinsey BCG presentations, they do talk about the exit options also, because once you get into one of these consulting firms, you have a lot of exit options also. So we have a lot of seniors, alums who are in the top B schools after spending some years in consulting. So Harvard, Wharton, all such business schools. It's such a great thing that you have. A firm in consulting, in a firm like BCG, McKinsey in your profile, that will help you crack into the top B schools. It makes it more easier. And then people also move on to product management, business development, because once you work in consulting, the kind of exposure that you have had is enough to uh, go anywhere you want. So that's how there are so many attractive exit options for those who have worked in consulting firms. And many people do go on to join private equity firms and VC firms also in consulting. Smriti, do you want to add anything here? You might have seen a lot of your colleagues,
Oh,
seniors moving on to.
yeah. Great exits, great exits. So you could club, say, private equity, venture capital at stages of finance, right? Like early stage would be venture capital, late stage is private equity. So finance is just one of the exits. They've mentioned product management, business development. A lot of my seniors went into growth. They went into not just product. I think product is very limited. They go into even program management. They go into just like if you're a consultant, you're very good at dealing with people. Is something that the outside world just assumes. If you have a certain number of years in consulting, you're really good at managing people, managing multiple stakeholders, like I mentioned. So that is one expectation that any recruiter of yours would have from you. Anyone who would think of hiring you. You also have a lot of let's say you will have you have headhunters who are looking for people to hire. So at least when you become a PL or above, and I can say this for BCG, you are hired at least in the top management of if you're joining a new firm. If you're joining something like say a startup, you're always hired as the top management. You can get into CXO levels very easily as well. And also because of the kind of client exposure you had and the kind of client like relationships you've built over the years when you were a consultant, you can always leverage it to get a better role, to get a better position. Business schools is a very common exit. Business schools is a very common exit. So if you essentially, and I have this one senior at HBS who said that we normally call B schools are just like refining schools for consultants, because you see so many of MBB consultants just ending up at B schools. Uh, a lot of those people eventually just end up in either private equity, they start their own firm. A lot of these people, and something I don't see this slide covering, is a lot of exit options include entrepreneurs as well. you'd see a lot of, at least this is what I've seen in the current wave, a lot of my seniors who were at BCG, they eventually ended up starting up on their own. They went out creating their own venture funds as well. So frankly, there is no limiting possibility. It's all about what you want to do, because this place gives you a certain set of skills. And these aren't really hard skills. You don't really learn software or a particular, you don't learn Tableau, Excel, or majorly that. Of course, that's your bread and butter. Tableau, like Excel and PowerPoint is your bread and butter, but that's not really what you're here for. You learn a lot of soft skills, which you can learn, which I doubt you get the exposure to learn at this age, like Soumya said rightfully. So frankly, those are extremely useful when you're at a top management role. And of course, business schools is eventually there to expand your network, and people go there for a plethora of reasons, be it relocation, be it finding what you really want and you just wanting a different break and going back to school. A lot of people just go back to business school for that as well. And I think something Soumya didn't really focus on, but I really wanted to focus on, is being treated as equals and not employees. They take the concept of a flat hierarchy extremely seriously. Extremely seriously. You might be 21, 22, 23. You might be very new into the world and might not know a lot about the world or anything about the world. But the minute you're at a table, you're treated as an equal, which is why they have this concept where you call everyone by your name. There's no sir, there's no ma'am, there's no, it's an absolute flat hierarchy, and your opinion matters. All that matters is that you end up voicing it. That's something that I think I haven't found in most of the places that I worked at before. It was extremely refreshing. A lot of companies tell that they have a flat hierarchy, but I've not seen it in practice. Here, you can actually end up talking to a very senior partner and tell them, I really don't think what you're telling me is right. I really don't think this is backed with evidence or proof. I don't think this proof is good enough. I don't think this is how this works. And if you have a good enough logical backing for what you're saying, your opinion is valued. As long as you're adding value, everything flies. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had to add from my end.
You can go to the next slide. So now that you have all listened to us about management consulting and the perks in the area, so let's go on to how the process will be if you want to enter one of these firms or if you want to enter management consulting. So we'll be talking about how the process will be when these firms come for on-campus placements. So if any of the big three consulting firms do come for placements, they are coming in the fantasy profile mostly. So even if you have an offer even if you have a dream offer from some other company, or if you have a PPO from your internship, you are allowed to sit for these companies, because that's a kind of opportunity that you get at such a young age. So these firms are considered fantasy profiles when it comes to placements. And there are three main steps in the hiring process of these firms. For BCG, it's following these resume. The first step is the resume shortlisting, and the next is the buddy process, and the next is the case interview round. But I think in McKinsey there is a aptitude test also in the beginning to narrow down the applicants, after which the resume shortlisting will be considered. There are just a minor few differences for most of the firms in consulting. Otherwise, mostly these three rounds are in most of the consulting firms hiring process. So now let's move on to what happens in resume shortlisting, and then let's come back to what happens in the buddy process and in the case interview. So also, if there is any doubt, do ask in the chat box, or do unmute, and do feel free to ask us at any point. Yeah, let's go on to the next slide. The one before this. Yeah, so what they look for in your resume, right? So one is academics. That's the top. That's what comes in the top of the resume, right? Your branch, your academics. What is your CGPA? Do you have any academic projects or publications? How have you fared in the branch that you have chosen to study in BITS? So that's one thing. Then the next thing is your work experiences. So throughout BITS, you get to do some mandatory internships. You have to do the PS1. You have to do the PS2 program, and maybe you do some summer internship programs also in between. The kind of exposure that you have gotten, have you interned with good brands? Have you had good internship experience? Do you have good work experience? That's one other thing that they look for in the resume. Next is the position of responsibilities. So, have you been an active part of the leadership in your campus, right? So, the important, I think some of the PORs that has a lot of weightage will be the placement coordinators. They do deal with a lot of the work and in interacting with stakeholders and all of that. That is something consulting firms value a lot. Then the elected PORs, the general secretary, the vice president, such things also carry a lot of weightage. And the fest, if the fest for the fest, if you have managed any part relating to the cultural fest or the sports fest or the technical fest, that also will be seen with a lot of value when you're going to a consulting firm. And the fourth thing that they are looking for is extracurriculars or achievements. So, have you been involved in sports, in any other extracurricular activities, music, dance? Then have you won any competitions? Have you done volunteering work? Have you? There are many NGOs on campus, so have you worked for them, or are you involved in such activities too outside your academics and PORs? That's another thing that they look at. So you might all be wondering, how is it possible for one person to make a great profile, academics also, internships also, PORs also, extracurriculars also. So actually, you don't need to have spikes. You call it spikes because these are things that should stand out. So you don't need to have spikes in all of these sections. So I think they look for a spike in at least two of these sections in the resume. So these are the major sections, and if you have a good spike, that is, if you have some good PORs and some good internships, that might outweigh your lesser CGPA, that might compensate for your slightly lesser CGPA, and maybe slightly lesser participation in extracurriculars, and vice versa. Also, if you have a really great CGPA, have a 9+ CGPA, you have great extracurriculars, you have won some national level competitions, then that might outweigh your compensate for your internships and PORs maybe. So that's how I see it. Smriti, if you want to add anything.
Hi, Yukta. I'd be glad to take that. There's actually, I think we were discussing this just today. The restrictions on CGPA haven't gone down, but they're a lot more sensitive to the kind of applications. What they really want to see is that out of the 600, like I know for a fact because I was part of the placement unit last year, 600 applications only from Pilani campus. If I have to review 600 applications, there has to be something that stands out. It's not about these spikes. These are great buckets to realize, okay, this is something you can excel in, but it's really something that just stands out. It's really something that makes them interested in you as a person, that, okay, fine, this person has done a great job in these particular 3 years. They have really stood out in something. It can be something like, and I'm not even kidding, you don't really have to be someone who has a great profile across, in the sense that I have a friend who had just published research papers for 3 years and he made it. That's it. All he had done was publish research papers. There was someone who was extremely, and this is years ago, this guy got in, who was a complete CS goat, as we call it, had a 9.95, and that guy had absolutely nothing else but a very interesting profile, and made sure that whatever he did, and he absolutely excelled in what he loved, he put it on paper, right? So there are two things to it. One is being really good at what you do, and the second is being able to put it on paper. If you're able to do both of these things, irrespective of what it is, even if your internship is not at probably say Dream, Fantasy, or any of those companies, if you can truly highlight the impact of what you've done, even if it's a really small firm, even if it's not a great brand, it's fine. As long as you're telling me, okay, this is what I did there, मैंने वहाँ फोड़ दिया, मैंने ये किया है, that's good enough. That's really what we are looking for. It's essentially when people come in, and it can't be flake. Like if you're going to come and tell me that I worked at the placement unit at Pilani campus and I did this, I saw a growth of this year over year. I know for a fact that's bullshit because I've been there. So there's not a lot of there's not a lot of legway to actually brag on that application because your resume is also reviewed by your seniors in the firm. And that's like, it's completely open. Your resumes are reviewed by people within the firm. So, because they know you better, they understand where you're coming from, your circumstances, your campus, how things work. So, frankly, when they understand your profile, they understand where you're coming from, the kind of work ex, how difficult is it to get into a Google at BITS, or how difficult it is to get into, they know it very well. How, if it's on campus, if it's off campus, we know the amount of effort you put in. So it's really just what you're putting in to that paper to stand out. As long as you're presenting it well, I think you're good to go. And it really doesn't matter. It can be absolutely anything under the sun. And as far as what CGPA is concerned, there is no limiting CGPA. I found it very difficult to believe myself. I used to think they're lying about it, but they're really not. Having been on the inside for 1 year of recruitment as well, I know for a fact that your CGPA is never a limiting factor. The reason for it is because BCG is a lot more open now. I can speak for BCG. I'm not really sure about McKinsey and Bain. But what I can tell from BCG's perspective is that they're a lot more open to really understanding the human being that you are and the kind of impact and value that you want to add to the firm. They genuinely are, and I'm very surprised. I thought all of this was hogwash, and this is just theory that's not put to practice, but it really is. As long as you have value to add, one, you've done something really good in your 3 years. Do something, do it right, do it well. Second part, learn how to put it on paper. Learn how to show that your impact is visible to people. As long as you're doing these two things, you're good to go.
Yeah. So in your resume, it's very important to bring out the impact and quantify, bring out numbers. This is something I found it really difficult to do at first. In whatever internships you have done, in whatever peers you had, you have to find ways to quantify it, bring out numbers to show the impact that you have actually made. And there are certain formats that you need to look while making your resume. So there is the STAR framework or the Impact First framework. You can Google those up later when you're ready to send your resume. So personally, I have I have done my I had made my resume, then I went to my peers for and made them review it first in the first stage, and then after that I went to my seniors, and after they had also reviewed and I made the necessary changes, I went on to I contacted people who are working in consulting firms, BCG, McKinsey, and our alumni over LinkedIn and all of that, and they were also very helpful in reviewing the resume. So that's the kind of effort that you have to put into your resume. So I think I had made almost 25-30 versions of my resume before I submitted it, the before I submitted the final version, because if you don't make it through the first stage, there is no use. Even if you are good at case solving, or if you are good at communication, you have had POs, you have had internships, but if you're not showing it the right way on your resume, and if your resume is not shortlisted, then there is no point in moving forward. You cannot move forward essentially. So just to put things in perspective, I think last year when BCG came, only 18 students were shortlisted from both the campuses, right? From Pilani and Goa combined, only 18 students were shortlisted. And from Pilani itself, Smriti just told there were 600 plus applications, and from Goa also, I think something similar to that. And out of these, only 5 people finally got in after the interviews. And this year, 26 profiles were shortlisted, and 14 selections were made. So you can see right in the first stage itself, there is such a big reduction in the number, right? Only only 10 to 20, the number is very small. The number of resumes that are shortlisted is very, very small. So it's very important that if you are in your first year or in your second year, then we would advise you focus on your cats, focus on your extracurriculars, be more active in the organizations and clubs and departments and all you're part of, and try to get good internships, try to make an impact in wherever you're working in. So that would help in a later stage while making a resume, right? Once when you want to apply for the firm, if you come and if you don't have anything to put there, but even if you were preparing for case interviews, if you don't showcase your profile in a way that it can be shortlisted, your efforts will go in vain. So yeah, that's it about resume shortlisting. Can we go back the slide? Go back, yeah. So the next process, if you're fortunate enough that your resume is shortlisted, the next process is a buddy process. It's a very chill and very effective, productive round. So I think it goes on for less than a month. So you will be assigned some seniors or alumni from your college itself, from BITS itself, and so they are called our buddies, and they'll be already working in the firm as consultants or project leaders and all of that, and they will help us with mock cases and give us good feedback after case solving. So personally, I hadn't prepared for case interviews. I had started only when I had applied for BCG. So I was a complete beginner, and these mock cases by buddies, they really helped me in understanding how to do these cases. What are they looking for? How do you structure cases? All of that. So these people are really friendly with us. I think Smriti and all were buddies for some other candidates this time, and they were really helpful, and they guide you through the process how it is, and you can ask them simply anything about the hiring process or about working at the firm and everything. And finally, you have the case interview, and you'll have 3, 4, 5 interview rounds according to what they decide. And mostly each interview round you'll see someone higher up in the hierarchy, as in the which with more years of experience in the firm, right? And you can expect cases profitability, market entry, you can expect guesstimates, and you can expect unconventional cases also. So we'll be covering in short how to prepare for case interviews. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. Yeah. So I think we have covered how to build your profile, how to make your resume. We did cover how to practice cases. The next one was how to practice cases. So a good resource for maybe a complete beginner would be there is a series of videos by Victor Cheng. If you have time, you can go through that. It's explained really well how things are in a consulting firm, how to prepare for case interviews in each type of cases. And other resource for a complete beginner is there is a video series by Case Interviews Cracked, the authors of Case Interviews Cracked. It's a case book. So there are 4 videos: profitability, market entry, guesstimates, and unconventional, I think. So they do have a lot of mock cases also. So if you complete both of these, you will have a fair idea of how to how case interviews are, and how to structure cases and all of that. And then the next thing you should do is you should form a case group. So ideally you will have 3 to 4 people in one case group, and what you all do is you give cases to each other, cases to each other, try to do like one case per day. So it's like one person asking reading and understanding a case in the beginning, and like asking a case to the other person, and the other person trying to solve the case. So you do this a lot until you are like comfortable. First you take a framework, maybe profitability cases, then like that you practice a lot with your peers itself, and then you can approach maybe people who are seniors who are working in these firms, or seniors who have given these interviews, and they can take mock cases for you. So a lot of these cases have to be practiced. You practice cases with your buddies also. So like that, that is how you become proficient in case solving. So I think a month, 2 months might be enough to master uh, how to solve cases, and I think anyone can pick that up. It's not that difficult if you work hard and if you are consistent, and it might be easy. I think a bit of general knowledge, a bit of financial literacy and all helps in because when you get a guesstimate and all, you have to make your own assumptions and you have to bring out your own figures to solve some things, right? So a bit of general knowledge, what is happening in around the world, such things might be really helpful while preparing for a case interview. Yeah, Smriti, if you have to add anything.
Smriti left. She had some work. So
Okay, no
yeah.
worries. So yeah, what to expect in actual interview? I think we had briefly covered this also. So each interview round will be taken by someone higher up in the hierarchy. So the first round was a market entry case, and after that it was unconventional. They asked whatever they wanted. So it was exciting in a way. It was more of a discussion with the interviewer than an interview, and it was actually very much fun, and I really enjoyed solving the cases. And let's move on to what some of the resources are to practice for you guys to practice cases from, to see how cases are solved. So next slide. So yeah, once you've gone through maybe the Victor Check videos and the case interviews cracked videos, you can start solving cases from these books. So Case Interviews Cracked is a book by IIT alumni, and I think I have tried to covered. I did try to cover almost all the cases from this book. I tried to me and my case group, we did try to cover all the cases in this particular casebook, Case Interviews Cracked, and it was really really good. And day one also I did like read through some cases, and if I wanted to give someone else a case, I used to pick some cases from day one and Case in Point. All of these are great reads. If you want to start off, if you want to see how cases are done, if you want to get into case competitions and all of that, you should definitely read uh, these books after after getting a good idea of how to solve a case and the frameworks and all by watching some videos and all of that, as mentioned. Yeah, that is the end of the slides, right? Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? Please feel free to ask.
I had a question regarding the buddy process thing that you mentioned.
Yeah, sure.
How long does it last? And they assign people, right? Like from BCG.
Right. Right. So they assign two people from BCG to each candidate who is shortlisted. So one person was someone who recently entered the firm, so they'll know the kind of questions asked in the interview and all because they gave the interview only last year. And other person will be a slightly higher uh, level on the management. I got a consultant and a person who just entered, so that person will be very busy. So I got to meet that person only once a week or something, whereas the other uh, person who had just entered the firm I used to do a case with him on an everyday basis. So for this time, I got to meet that person
A
so
chance to
I was
sit for
also like
this.
you. So I was in IT only. I had interned in Adobe as a product intern, which is basically the IT profile only. And I didn't have any sort of consulting experience before. So I wasn't a part of any consulting club on campus, or I hadn't solved a case before I was in this process, to be very honest. So I just knew about the process and all because I am a dual degree student, so I have seen my friends applying for this when I was in my I was in my third year, right? And when I was in my fourth year only, I started, and after I had a PPO from my internship, and after that, I came into consulting, to be honest. So yeah, whatever your profile is, uh, one thing for you is keep doing what you're doing very well, and maybe if you're doing an internship and all, try to note down what work you have done there, what is the impact that you have made there, right? It will be easier for you to put that in your resume later and
Uh,
show it off.
yeah. Can I ask you this that you already had an SIP with like Adobe in the product intern, right? So why didn't you go for this IT profile and went for the consultancy? Look, if you're
Right.
comfortable.
Yeah, okay, fine. So I was very attracted to this consulting profile, mainly because it's very, very difficult to get in. So it's such a challenging process. And when something's very challenging, it attracts me very much because the competition is so huge. It's very, very, very selective process. So even though consulting was what I wanted to be, you cannot simply rely on it, right? Because it's very doubtful, even if your resume will be shortlisted,
Mm.
right? So that's why I like kept on doing IT. I was in electronics and communication. I
Okay.
wasn't very interested in pursuing course, so that's why I pursued IT. And after that, you need to have some backup basically
Yeah.
if you didn't get into consulting.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say that's why I did IT. And then actually it worked out for the best because I had a good brand also when I came into consulting, right? Because you have worked at a good firm,
Mm.
you can show good impact,
Yeah.
so that worked out for the best.
Okay. And so you didn't do any consultancy internship or anything before? No. Okay.
No, actually consulting internships are difficult to find. I don't know if they exist at all.
Okay.
But yeah, case competitions, maybe I've seen some people who are shortlisted having really good case competitions, who have won really good case competitions. Maybe you can look that up.
Okay.
But internships are difficult.
Okay.
Maybe try to do some internships, even if you're in a startup. Then try to do quality work, or like you can try for getting internships in good brands, so that will be a spike in that section.
Okay. And in the placement session, if I'm applying for the IT companies, can I apply for this as well? Or there is some demarcation that you can only apply for one kind of field?
No, no. So most of the consulting firms come in the fantasy category. So, and most of the IT profiles are in the dream category. Only Google from the IT uh, sector is in the fantasy category. All other IT jobs are in the dream category. So, if you have a dream job, you can apply for a fantasy job. So, all these BCG, McKinsey, Dalberg, everything was in the fantasy category. So, that means even if you have an offer or if you have a PPO, you can still apply for these fantasy profiles.
Companies.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Could you also speak a bit about time management? You were the PU Cordy, and you also did DSA along with it, and you you also got into BCG. That's
Right.
uh,
That year was very hectic when I remember it now. That year was very, very hectic because you are in I was in electronics and communication. I had some heavy PORs and I had to prepare for something which I was not learning on campus, right? I had to prepare for IT by myself. So that year was very, very hectic, to be honest. And even more than that, when I had to prepare for case interviews, I had to do that along with my internship. So I was interning in Adobe, and I got the shortlist, and I hadn't seen a case interview before. I hadn't basically practiced case interviews before. So that part was especially very very hectic. So because if you are interning somewhere, you have to be present there from like 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. at least. You have work, you have calls to attend to, you have to show what work you have done each day. So what I did was, me and my case group, in my case group, one person was from Canada. So one person was doing a thesis in Canada. So he was in a completely different time zone. So what we used to do, we used to do a case at 7:30 a.m. in the morning, and then 8 p.m. in the at the night we used to do one case. So we kind of made sure we did two cases per day every day, even though it was very hectic. And if I got any free time in between, I used to read up or watch videos or something like that. And on the weekends, I used to like contact all these people who are already working in BCG, McKinsey, our alumni, and I used to ask if they have time to take a mock case for me. And some of them did reply, and some of them did take mock cases for me. So that was also, their feedback was also very very helpful in the process. So yeah, it's been very hectic, but I think when you have a hectic schedule, you manage your time better. If you have nothing, and I had to prepare really for case interviews, maybe I wouldn't have done it this well. But I think when you have a lot of things to do, you kind of get good at time management.
Yeah, um, that's insane. That's very respectable. Um,
Thank
could
you.
you mention the resume shortlisting part again? Um, how do they
Yeah.
go about it?
Anything specific that you want to know about there?
You said they shortlist around 10-ish people from a very large group. So how does the
Right.
shortlisting work?
Okay. Can you move to that slide? How to build your profile, what they look for. Yeah, this one. Yeah. So for a consulting firm, this is how your resume should look like. The top acads will come, then your internships, then POs, then extracurriculars. I hadn't put academic projects at all because I wasn't doing any good projects in my core degree. So some people do have done very good projects in their discipline. So they do put their academic projects, publications that they have done, and all of that. But that wasn't there at all in my resume. So my resume acats your 12th, your 10th, then the internships that I had done, then the POs that I had held, and the extracurriculars. So this was how it worked. So I'll talk about my resume. So my acats wasn't good at all. So my CG was around 8 only, and I was expecting only 9 pointers to make it to the resume shortlisting. But as Smriti told earlier, they don't really have a demarcation there. If you compensate for it by having good spikes in the other sections, then that will work for your advantage. So coming to work experience, I had put my internship in Adobe, and then I had interned in MPL as a product management intern. So I had quantified it well, and like brought out numbers and tried to show the impact that I had made there very well in the resume. And then I had put my PS1 station, which was Nivea India. So that was also a good brand. So I put that also because uh, no matter what you put, it depends on what you show, right? We all know PS1 projects are not that big a deal, just don't work at all. But whatever you're putting, if you're showing that in a good way, what you have done, if you know how to sell it, that makes a difference, right? And in the PORs, I had mentioned being a placement coordinator. Then I had a POR in alumni relations cell. So that was a year the BGM happened, the BITS Global Meet happened. So that was a very large scale event. So I had put according to that. That was attended by like many 3,000 plus attendees, BITSian alumni all over the world. So that's how you bring out numbers. Whatever you put, you bring out. Try to bring out the numbers. If you take one coordinatorship, try to see how can you bring out the numbers in this in this area or in this POR or in this internship. And in extracurriculars, I had and PORs I had also put. I was a mess representative for a short span of time, so I had also like presented that very nicely because apparently mess representative is a very big POR in the Pilani campus, and a lot of the people who are scanning our resumes are Pilani alumni, right? Because BCG and all started coming to Goa campus at a later stage only, so there are a lot of alumni from Pilani campus there compared to the Goa campus. So mass representative was an important POR there. So I had put that also very nicely. And then in the extracurriculars, I had put being a part of the women's football club and also some volunteering activities. I think I had undertaken for Abhigyan. So how the teaching that I had done there. So yeah, it depends on how you put everything. And if you are in a early stage in your campus life, then you can kind of plan your resume from now on. Okay, I'll go do these activities. I'll join these NGOs. I'll try for a POR in like what good club or department that I'm a part of. So you can kind of plan these in advance if you are looking to get into a top consulting firm. Yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions? Yeah, I think that's about it. Thanks a lot for taking the time, Soumya. It was like incredibly informative and it was a great session.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Also, guys, whoever is right now over here, can you please scan the feedback, this scanner and QR code, and just give us the feedback of the session.
So
Okay,
you guys
cool.
are all on campus right now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so waves just got over, right?
Yeah, just.
I heard many people are falling sick. I
Everyone
don't
is
know.
sick and